Welcome to the Mitchinformation podcast, best podcast this side of the Mississippi, best podcast other side of the Mississippi as well, best podcast worldwide, entertainment for real. Solid. Okay, Mitchinformation podcast hasn't happened in over a year. Slacker alert. So we're back at it. The laziness never went away. It was always there. The laziness and not necessarily lack of work ethic, but not applying the work ethic to things that should be applied to. So we are back at the Mitchinformation podcast. We are slamming these shits figuratively and literally. So, awesome. Last time I talked to y'all, I was in Northfield, Minnesota, and now I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. Not a long distance, but a distance nonetheless. What do I like about Madison? That's currently where my job is. So, my job is here. That's nice. What else do I like? I like that it is not as dependent on a vehicle. You'll see this in really suburbia or rural America where you really need a car to really live day to day. There are not great public transport options outside of metropolitan areas, and luckily, since I'm in the capital city of Wisconsin, I am able to get good public transportation. I take the bus to work every day. I also take the bus home from work every day, so that is real baller. And the public transport is good. I have only had the bus pull over because they didn't want to drive it anymore once, and it was on a route that had about a 15-minute gap in between. Here's one bus and then there's another one coming, so a 15-minute interval between the two. So it wasn't a long breakdown, and I was already going to the place I was going before I was expected to be there. So the 15-minute delay wasn't an issue, and it was one of the older buses, not the newer, longer buses with the accordion section in the middle where it's really two buses stapled onto each other. So that's only happened once, and I've been taking the bus for about a couple months at this point. So really baller. Shout out to public transportation. I'm also in a relatively walkable spot as well. So I don't have to, I definitely don't rely on having a vehicle here. If I need to get back to Minnesota, that's an easy Greyhound bus or Flixbus or whatever bus company I decide. There's two main routes. I think the Greyhound and the Flix will go just back on Highway 94 from Madison to MSP area. And then the other one is really cool. It's I think the Jefferson Lines usually does this, but it goes through all the southern Minnesota college towns, and southern Wisconsin as well. So not all of them, just the real popular ones, and also they're economic hubs besides having colleges, but part of what drives those areas are the fact that people who are usually taking the bus are usually either college students or people looking for cheap transport to not necessarily like airport destinations, if that makes sense. So that route it goes from Madison and then it goes to La Crosse and then it goes to Winona and then Rochester and then goes up from Rochester into MSP. I really like that route. It's a bit more scenic. It does take, I think, like 30 minutes longer, and there isn't like a really early morning Madison to Minneapolis option, but it gets you to Minneapolis or St. Paul like late afternoon, like 3:50 to 5 p.m., depending on delays, of course. But it's really nice. I like that one a lot because, yeah, it's just a bit more scenic, and I feel like if you're taking a bus somewhere or you're taking a long road trip, you don't necessarily care about like, hey, I'm taking an extra like 30 to 40 to like an hour. I don't care about that, especially when you're not driving too. That's one thing that I've liked a lot about not driving is that I don't have to think about driving. Not just I not caring about the cost, not caring about anything else associated with driving. I just don't like having to think about driving. You know, early morning, I don't want to try and stay awake while on the road. I don't want to have coffee before I get to work. I like to just like be tired in the morning, and that's really nice. I don't have to try and be someone who's ready to go, active, punching the air or the wall with energy as soon as I get up in the morning, because I do think of myself as a morning person generally rather than a night owl, but I'm not immediately ready every morning. Like, I'd rather get up early than stay up late. So, morning person, but I don't think morning person necessarily means that you're immediately ready to jump at every opportunity in the morning. So, we ballin' on that front. So, really like that. And yeah, that's Madison, Wisconsin. I didn't really have too much else to talk about today. Did want to talk about some music that I've been listening to recently, specifically one album that would be Fada Love Off Money. I think that's how it's pronounced. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. You go back to that one episode where I was talking about classical music and I mispronounced like every single song title, probably even the album name. I don't remember it. I just remember it being really good and having like really good timpani parts in it. And that's what really sold me on that album, was just the veracity and energy that the timpani really carried on some of those songs. And if you know me, you know that I really like a good timpani in classical music as a whole. Having tuned drums that have a sharp and bouncy attack is something I really enjoy, and something that actually carries over into other genres that I enjoy. And I'll talk a bit about this while I'm discussing Fada Love Off Money by Neonte as well. I didn't say Neonte earlier, but the album's by Neonte, I think Florida trap artist, hip hop rap guy. But that like idea of tuned sharp drums really carries over into two other genres that I really like, which are rap and hip hop, and then also jazz as well, where jazz you really have kind of like a higher tuned drum set that is very, it's built to project off of not necessarily like I'm slamming the shit out of some drums, like I'm putting all power into my drumsticks every single time, but it's like I want the softness of an attack where I'm using a light drumstick and light pressure, but I still want the sound to project. So I'm going to tune the drums high and to a specific pitch. So that carries over to that genre as well. And the percussive element also goes into either the upright bass or some of the more funk style slap electric bass that we'll see as well within the jazz fusion development of the 80s as well. And then hip hop that easily comes in with both sampling of some of the jazz greats that I love on the drum side, but then also comes in on the idea of like heavy synth melodies or 808 production, having that rich, deep sound that is also providing a melody and is also tuned to a specific note rather than just a percussive element and a percussive element only. This doesn't necessarily carry over as much to like drumless hip hop, but that you can really say the percussive element really aligns with the voice then rather than the production behind it. And that also has that argument going for it where it's like a tuned percussive element that is providing a melody and a story and a rhythm all at the same time, not just one of those three. So talking about Fate of Love off of $3, or not $3, Fate of Love, I keep saying $3 because the heart in there, the title is like fully spelled out, FADA less than 3 OF $, and I keep saying $3 because I recognize the 3, and then I think, oh, there's going to be another 3, and then there isn't. So I think it is Fate of Love off Money. Don't quote me on that. Don't tell me that I am right, because I'm probably not. And if I am, I don't think I deserve to be right because I didn't do the research beforehand. So we'll live with the mistakes. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I apologize for that. But I did buy it on like digital. I bought it on digital, and then I ripped it to a CD like I always do when I buy digital albums, even if I'm just going to listen to it off of my phone and never really bring it into like somebody else's car or stereo system easily. Usually find that more people will have a CD player, or oftentimes it'll just be like, hey, I just have a DAC that you can plug a USB cord into. So then it goes to phone. But I just like having the CD backup as well, just in case I eventually like lose my phone or computer and stuff. Technological change happens where I can't transfer everything over in time. So having a physical thing that just holds the backup, and it's a cheap backup too. And it's like, oh, it isn't single-use plastic that you're going to get rid of. It's like I'm going to keep using that plastic for a long time. So baller. But what makes this album special? I think one thing that we really see here is the manipulation of song structure along with beat selection and production, which you may say immediately, oh, what do you mean those are the same things, Mitchell Dean Ardolph? You are a complete utter buffoon. And I would say you're probably correct that I am a buffoon, but not for these reasons. What do I mean by song structure? A great example off of this album of what I'm trying to highlight here is towards the middle back end of this album. You have two songs that are entirely like structured. They're very dichotomous in how they're structured. Those songs are So Lovely and then Old Kent Road Freestyle. And Old Kent Road Freestyle is a stream of consciousness freestyle where it is words after words after words after words after words. There is no gaps other than the start and finish. It is a consistent driving attack. And there is no divide. The only divide that you can get to off of just like, here's a song, and then the next layer after that is down to the sentence level instead. It's just a whole speech, which is really interesting. You don't often see that as something that is either A, quality enough to put on a full album, or having artists actually do that at all. So really cool, but contrasting with a song that appears like 2 or 3 songs earlier is So Lovely, where you have this repeated hook over and over again, and you have so many subdivided looped sections where it feels like the same thing over and over again, but like that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. One of the strengths of this album is with its structure, experimentation, and its structural changes from song to song. It doesn't feel unexpected. Sometimes when you have artists try and switch things up like that, it can feel disjointed from one song or another. By we, I mean just me. I'm the only person I've consulted about this. You don't expect those structural changes from song to song. Or no, you kind of do expect those changes, but it doesn't feel unexpected when they happen. That's what I'm trying to highlight. They don't feel unexpected when they happen. They feel natural for Niante as an artist and the beat production behind them. It doesn't feel like a divergence. He is able to both craft his words, but also the inflection, how he speaks as well, into each song structure, and feels like he's really the driver of it. He's the genesis of the specific song structure rather than the beat and the structure coming in beforehand, which I feel like when you want to try and experiment with doing a weird structure on a song, you bring in that weird structure first and then try to build everything around that. No, the unorthodox structure is a symptom of what Niante is trying to bring to the fold. So I think it's really worth a listen. I don't think there's definitely songs where you're like, oh, I wouldn't listen to this off of the album if I'm like not listening to the whole album in order. But there isn't a point in this album where I feel like, oh, I need to skip this song because it's a terrible song. There's some where you could like debatably be like, oh, I don't want to listen to this again. On the next listen through, I'm going to skip this one. But like on the first couple of listens, it's not super, there's nothing that jumps out to me like that. There are definitely some songs that could grind your gears over time. There's one where it might just be Neonte in a high-pitched voice. It might be a feature. I don't know. But that one I could see that one grinding your gears for a while. Don't remember what that song is called because that's one of those where it's like I don't really want to listen to it outside of the context of the album, but with the context of the album, I think it really fits well. Cool. What songs did I really like off of this album? There are 4 that I haven't mentioned so far that really stand out to me. First is 32 Ummers. I probably have said more than 32 ums in this podcast so far. So 32 Ummers, what do I really like about it? I really like specifically, there's like a crash cymbal, like clave-esque rhythm that comes in in spurts throughout the song that are really nice to just like, I'd be nodding my head a lot when I'm on the bus listening to music. Like I'd be like, and it's just nice to have a couple times where you have the opportunity to head nod, but at a non-standard like 4/4 or every half beat rhythm or half note, not half beat, half note rhythm. So having that 5/8 subdivision, not necessarily even, just kind of dispersed clave-esque throughout there of a crash cymbal really gives me an opportunity to just like mix it up a bit. It's a really simple reason why I like it so much, but and then I really like the repetition, but like tweaking of the words every time. You get this motif of, you know what it was, you know what it is, and then kind of like changing up the words a couple of times. But I know the first time he says like that motif, it's you know what it was, you know what it is, and just keeping that driving forward, and then having that 5/8 subdivision on a crash cymbal is wonderful. There was one time where I was going grocery shopping after work, and I was like, okay, my phone's at 3%. I don't need this until I get home, but I don't want it to die, because then if I have the battery completely dead, or like at the point where it won't let you use the phone anymore, then it's going to take longer for me to be able to use it again. So I'd rather like keep it at like 3, 2, or 1 and not have it at 0. So I was like, I just gotta not use my phone. I'm just gonna put one song on repeat that I know I am going to like and not get tired of repeated over and over and over again. And that on that day was 32 Ummers. So my phone did not die, and I had a fun time listening to that song on repeat after work. So 32 Ummers, that's great. It's like the second song on an album, which usually I feel with most albums, you try and get a really good start with the first 4 songs. And that does happen here on this album, but usually I don't gravitate towards the second song on an album as much, or at least I feel like I don't. I probably could do some statistical analysis on like album position and does Mitch actually like this song. So I could do that, but just off of intuition, usually it's like the first song or first couple after the second, where it's like we're trying to create this whole introduction to the album, but the second is really like a bridge in that introduction. So really like 32 Hummers. Next two songs are back to back in the middle, and those are Plus 100 Underdogs featuring David, and then post-game PSKR. It's like post-game press conference or post-game Pesker. I don't know what PSKR stands for. Probably something that I don't know and probably could have figured out listening, like actually like hearing what he's saying instead of just like being like, oh, this is a really good song. I like how it makes my brain feel. That's so cool. But what I really like is that we both synth heavy production again, where we have opportunities for me to like, you really have these strong rhythmic patterns built in. With Plus 100 dogs, Plus 100 Underdogs, you have these synth chords that hop in at a not regular interval. Again, it's like I'm not gonna sing it because I can't sing chords. I'm listening to it in my head right now, but we got that. And then kind of similar with the post-game PSKR, where you have these little like synth drums come in at the end of like every 4 bars, where it goes like do 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 do. It's like that's amazing. I like that. And then there's like an iPhone charger sound effect, it feels like, in the middle of there somewhere. I like that. But what stands out about both of these songs is that Niante starts both of them off, and then we get a feature at the end, but it really still feels like a Niante-led, Niante-owned song, where you, a lot of times when you have a featured artist and the actual like owning artist of the song, or like this is a I'm just gonna say a name of an album that I'm not album, but an artist of a album that I'm looking at right now. Like, hey, this is a SD Knack song. Like, who's the feature on it? West Side Gun. This feels like a West Side Gun song because we're really picking into a, not because they're both like Griselda or Griselda affiliated artists, but like really diving into a specific West Side Gun beat, not a Griselda, but like, oh, this is one that's more tailored to SD Knack. So it, on both of these songs, it really does still feel like a Niante song. It doesn't stray into, oh, I need to cave to whatever David does, or cave into whatever El Cousteau does. El Cousteau does, he's also under the 10K label like Niante is, but El Cousteau does, I think he's Virginia artist. He does a bit more like 4 on the floor beats, more kind of like brass melodies in his beats, where Niante is more synth keys heavy. So it still feels like a Niante song on both of them. Having 2 good songs back to back really helps too, because you can just, if you want to like replay those 2, you just hit the like back double arrow twice, and then you don't have to pick up your phone for like 4 minutes, and that's nice. So both of those are really good. Final song that I really like on that album is Triangle Offense, With Sideshow and Mavi, this is like standard, like, oh, we are going to end it off as strong as possible. We're going to end off an album with the debatably the best song on the album. You do see synth heavy approach again with the lead, and it almost takes on the rhythm itself too, the synth melody and keeping time. And you have these little glisses that'll come in, or like step ups where it's like a couple of notes and it's like going up the keyboard. I've lost all my music theory terms, if I've ever had music theory terms in my head. So forgive me for not remembering that, but we got that going for it. Mavi and Sideshow show their technical prowess and are able to keep up with Niante. Once again, we have Niante start off a song and then hand it off, but it still feels like a Niante song. It's like the featured artists are, yes, bringing their own strengths and own flows and own passion and just all the intangibles that a featured artist will bring to a song, but they don't take over the song. They still, Niante sets the precedent that like, this is his song, this is what's going on, this is how it's going to be structured. These are going to be, yes, like very, it almost feels like we took the Old Kent Road approach, but like we'll let 3 people do it for a shorter time. It is very quick. You do kind of have these hooks come in, or like repetitive structures come in and out, but it is consistent. It feels without breath. It feels highly energetic, and it would be crazy to see somebody try and perform this song, let alone all 3 of them perform this song and succeed without like skipping out on words to take a breath, because it is just a conscious, direct, powerful effort, which you don't often see, or at least I don't often see. I can't speak for you. You may have a better music taste than me. You may have greater knowledge of all music at hand. You might be the knower of all music to ever be made, and you're like, Niante isn't special, and this album isn't new. And I'm like, I don't think it's new. It's developing new concepts. It's just applying them in a bit different ways than we haven't seen before. And that's really music as a whole. We see that artists don't necessarily create new entirely. There are bits and pieces that are co-opted or taken from one place or another. And there is truly no originality in the human experience. So think about that. Think about that. When the next time you say, oh, I have nothing original about me, just remember, nobody has anything original. Everybody's copying. Everybody's, except for me. I am completely original. I am completely original. I am the genesis of everything in reality. So, yeah, it's a good album. I'd take a listen to it. If you're someone that just looks for the highlights off of an album and not necessarily is like a full album listener, I'd listen to the 4 that I specifically mentioned, not the, and then maybe like pick up like So Lovely, Mumble Man, Old Kent Road Freestyle, Dehissa Technology. I'm trying to remember some others. Top the Top. Yeah, I'd pick those up and be like, hey, do I like these songs or not? And do it. So it goes. I actually recorded this episode last night, and I was listening back to some of the recording, and I was shocked at how quiet and echoey the sound was. It's probably going to be echoey again, but I was so shocked at how echoey it was. And I realized that was, I can't talk, but like, I realized that it was so echoey and quiet because I didn't specify which device I'd be recording from. So instead of recording from my mic that you see in front of my face right now, I was actually recording from my computer about like maybe 6-7 feet away from me, maybe like 8. I don't know. Like a person, a tall person away from me. So yeah, definitely not 8 then. But yeah, a tall person away from me is my computer, and the mic on it is terrible. So I realized that I recorded it as that, and that's why it was so echoey as well, because it was just taking effectively me and then also the version of me bouncing back from the wall at the same time. So awesome. So that was really cool and so awesome to have. So I'm recording this next day. I didn't want to record again at like 10 p.m. I was tired. So that's how it goes. So this is Mitchinformation Podcast. Question of the day. Question of the day. If the Mitchinformation Podcast was a used car on a like what appears to be a unreliable car lot, like you don't know exactly if you're going to get a quality car on that car lot. If the Mitchinformation Podcast was a car that would appear on that car lot, what would it be? I would say like a late 2000s Chevy Impala, because you don't know what you're going to get. You're either going to get something that squeaks as loud as possible for its entire life, or you're going to get a reliable piece of hardware that will outlast any expectations that you had of it going into purchasing it, and not by a small margin, but by a significant margin, really removing any doubt that you had going into it and making yourself question your entire existence. So we really see that on the Mitchinformation Podcast, where you don't know the quality of episode you're going to get. You're either going to get a really terrible episode where I talk about a YouTube video for 20 minutes and make Baja Blast pickled onions, or you're going to get, actually, I don't know if there's a good example. Well, you're going to get the Mitchinformation Podcast. So like, that's a blessing. Yeah, maybe PT Cruiser. PT Cruiser. Comment, Mitchinformation Podcast is new PT Cruiser. I will get Liberty Mutual Insurance for the Mitchinformation Podcast in the comments below. How much would your insurance policy cost for the Mitchinformation podcast? How much are you covered for the Mitchinformation podcast? God willing, it's in the tens of digits. All right. Goodbye.